Okay, welcome back. I'm glad you came back for the next video. Okay, so this one is on page 310 up at the top, and it's solving this rational equation. So I'm going to do the same thing I did in the other one, the beginning of it, and I'm going to go over on the side here, and I am going to pick out all the values that we have to be careful of and reject in the end if we get. So the one thing I'm going to do first is this, the one that I just underlined right there, that fraction is in good shape. I don't have to, there's nothing I can do factoring or anything there. And the next one is also in good shape. There's no factoring I can do. But the third one, this one right here, this x squared minus 5x can be factored. And I want to make sure I factor everything I can before I try to pick out my LCM. Okay, because I want to see exactly what factors are in each denominator so I can figure out what factors does my LCM need so that it will cross cancel with each denominator. So this one I'm going to factor into x times x minus 5. The only thing I could do on this one is pull out the GCF. So when I look at my denominators now, I see on the first denominator that 3 over x is not allowed to be 0 there. And then the next one right here, oops, sorry, I was trying to use the pointer on this. I've never been good at it. And I clearly am still not good at it. It's hard to show you exactly which ones I'm looking at. But the x minus 5, if I set that equal to 0, then x is not allowed to be 5. So I'm going to keep these two in the back of my head. Okay, and if I get either one of those when I'm done solving, I'm going to reject it. The third fraction didn't give me any new values. It gave me the same thing. X can't be 0, x can't be 5. So that's why I didn't add anything to my list there. All right, so my LCM here now, if I look at all my denominators, I have an x and x minus 5, and then the last fraction has a combination of those, right? Has a product of x and x minus 5. So my LCM, the first fraction has an x, so I'll need an x. The next one has an x minus 5, so I will need that as well for my LCM. The last fraction I already have covered, right? It has an x, and I already have it. It has an x minus 5, and I already have that. So that LCM will be good enough to multiply through the entire equation and to be able to wipe out all my fractions. Okay, so I just want to see if I can erase. No, I can't erase that. I was going to try to just make a little bit more room. Okay, so I'm going to have to multiply this entire equation by my LCM. So let me just show that work over here. All right, so I'm going to do x times x minus 5 times the entire equation. And then I'll break down each step so you can see what I'm getting. And I'm going to keep this in factored form. It's much, much easier to see what cancels when it's in factored form. So I have to do the LCM times this fraction, times this fraction, and times this fraction. And if I do it right, then I shouldn't have any denominators after. Okay, so let me just see if I can move this up. Okay, so here we go. I'm just bringing that up a tiny bit so we can work here. All right, so I'm going to do, over on the side, this is what I usually do for when I'm teaching this in class. I go x times x minus 5 times this fraction, and I'll figure out what I'm going to get. Then I have to do x times x minus 5 times the next fraction, and you'll see I usually don't worry about the sign. I put the sign back in when I'm going to write my new equation in a second. And then the last one I do is I have to do x times x minus 5 times this whole last one. So I do this over so people can really see what is actually canceling out. Sometimes people have a hard time visualizing what is cross-reducing, and this will help. So when I do this first fraction, when I do this times this, the x's cancel, and I get 3 times x minus 5. And then when I do the next one, the x minus 5's cancel. Like, that's why I chose that to be in my LCM. If there was an x minus 5 in the denominator, then I need an x minus 5 in my numerator in order to cross-cancel with that. So what's left there is 4x. Now I know it's going to be a minus, and I'm going to put that back in when I write my equation in a second. And then the last one, when I do this last fraction, both the x's cancel and the x minus 5's cancel, right? And I get just a 2. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to come up with my new equation. Once I multiply through with my LCM, my new equation is 3 times x minus 5. Okay, then I'm going to bring down the minus, and that term became a 4x. I'm bringing down my equal sign, and that became a 2. So I had originally a rational equation at the very beginning, and now I have, this one happens to be a linear. I could get a linear or I could get a quadratic at this point, but this one's a linear equation that now I can go start solving. I'm gonna distribute here. So I get 3x minus 15 minus 4x equals 2. Okay, so we'll keep going here. I'm going to combine these two like terms and get negative x minus 15 equals 2. I'm going to add over my 15, which gives me a 17. And lastly, I'll divide out my negative 1, and so I'll get a negative 17. Now, remember what we said up in the beginning, that, oops, sorry, that's going to mess it up if I do that. We said that x was not allowed to be 5 and x was not allowed to be 0. And since we didn't get either one of those values, this is a valid answer. It's not an extraneous solution. Now you can just go back up and check that value and make sure it makes both sides of my equal sign true to check our work. But we know it's not extraneous with with the denominators that we had in the beginning. Okay, so hopefully that helps a little bit, and I hope that you join me for the next little video, and we'll continue on page 34.